Hello everybody! Today we will take a brief look into powerful biblical creatures that symbolize chaos, destruction, and moral struggle, rather than simple monsters. Abaddon. Abaddon is encountered within the apocalyptic writings of Revelation, where destruction is given both name and authority. Rather than being introduced as a simple monster, this entity appears as a ruler tied to the abyss, a realm associated with punishment and divine judgment. His presence reflects the belief that destruction can be guided rather than being purely chaotic. Traditions describe Abaddon as a fearsome, otherworldly being shaped by darkness, often imagined with angelic remnants twisted into a monstrous form, surrounded by smoke, fire, and decay. The idea of Abaddon likely formed from the Hebrew concept of a place of ruin, which later evolved into a personalized force. Over time, destruction became something that could act, command, and enforce judgment. Abaddon's role is not that of a flesh-eater or roaming predator. Instead, he functions as a warden and commander, overseeing torment rather than inflicting it directly. His purpose lies in breaking endurance and hope, making him a destroyer of resolve and spirit rather than bodies. The Beast. The Beast takes shape within Revelation, a text rich in symbolic imagery and prophetic warnings. This creature does not belong to a single moment, but draws upon older traditions scattered throughout prophetic writings of the Old Testament, where monstrous animals often represented oppressive powers. Accounts portray the beast as an unnatural fusion of predators, bearing multiple heads and horns, with a form designed to overwhelm and inspire dread. The legend of the beast likely arose from political and spiritual fears, evolving into a single embodiment of corruption and false authority. Its terrifying appearance mirrors the moral distortion it represents. Rather than acting as a simple killer, the beast thrives on control. It consumes loyalty, faith, and independence, demanding submission instead of flesh. Its role is that of a devourer of truth, corrupting societies from within by replacing genuine belief with fear and obedience. The beast stands as a warning against power that disguises itself as salvation. The Behemoth. Behemoth belongs to the poetic and wisdom traditions of the Old Testament, appearing in reflections on creation and divine power. Unlike apocalyptic monsters, this creature is introduced as part of the natural order, though vastly beyond human strength or control. Descriptions speak of a colossal land beast with immense muscles, unshakable bones, and movements powerful enough to alter the landscape around it. The legend of Behemoth may have originated from exaggerated accounts of massive animals, later transformed into a symbol of untamed creation. Its sheer size and strength elevate it beyond realism into myth. Behemoth does not function as a villain. It neither hunts humanity nor guards sacred places. Instead, its role is to humble observers, reminding them of forces that exist outside human dominance. Behemoth represents raw, indifferent power, serving as proof that creation contains mysteries that cannot be mastered or fully understood. Demons. Demons appear across several traditions, most prominently within the Gospels, where they directly influence human lives through possession and affliction. These beings are not singular monsters, but a category of hostile spirits associated with impurity and corruption. They are often envisioned as formless or shadow-like entities, their appearance defined more by terror and disruption than by consistent physical traits. The concept of demons developed gradually, drawing from earlier ideas of unclean spirits before becoming more clearly defined through stories of exorcism. Their lack of fixed shape reinforces their invasive nature. Demons do not primarily destroy bodies. Their purpose is domination of the mind and will. Acting as tempters and tormentors, they feed on fear and moral collapse. Their role emphasizes internal struggle, portraying evil as something that infiltrates rather than attacks openly. The Dragon. The dragon emerges across prophetic and apocalyptic writings, with its most dramatic role appearing in Revelation. Its roots stretch back into Old Testament symbolism, where serpents and chaos creatures represented rebellion against divine order. Legends describe the dragon as an enormous serpentine monster with multiple heads, blazing eyes, and an ancient presence that radiates destructive power. Over time, this imagery evolved from abstract chaos into a conscious adversary capable of strategy and deception. The dragon became more than a symbol, transforming into a personalized enemy. Its function is cosmic rather than local. The dragon acts as a corrupter, tempter, and destroyer of souls, opposing divine plans on a grand scale. Unlike creatures bound to land or sea, it represents chaos itself, threatening nations, faith, and order wherever it exerts influence. Leviathan. Leviathan appears across several layers of biblical tradition, most notably within poetic and prophetic sections of the Old Testament, where cosmic imagery is used to express divine authority over chaos. Rather than belonging to a single narrative, this creature surfaces in hymns, visions, and symbolic language meant to inspire awe and fear. Ancient accounts describe Leviathan as a vast sea serpent, coiled like a living storm, with impenetrable scales, blazing breath, and a body that turns the ocean itself into turmoil. The legend likely formed from ancient Near Eastern chaos myths, adapted into a theological framework where such a monster could exist only under divine restraint. Over time, Leviathan became a symbol of untamed forces lurking beyond human control. Leviathan's role is not that of a mindless predator. It represents chaos and pride, a creature whose defeat or containment demonstrates divine supremacy. Rather than devouring people directly, Leviathan embodies the threat of disorder itself, standing as a reminder that even the most terrifying forces are subject to a higher power. The Locusts of the Apocalypse. The Locusts of the Apocalypse are introduced within Revelation, where visions depict waves of judgment unleashed upon the world. Unlike ordinary insects, these locusts are presented as instruments of punishment rather than natural creatures. They are grotesque hybrids, resembling locusts yet bearing human faces, crowns, wings like chariots, and tails capable of inflicting agony. This disturbing imagery likely evolved from earlier prophetic plagues described in the Old Testament, transformed into something far more supernatural. The legend reflects fears of unstoppable devastation combined with spiritual torment. These locusts do not consume crops or flesh. Their role is psychological and spiritual suffering. Acting as agents of divine judgment, they torment those marked for punishment without granting death as relief. They function as living weapons, designed to break endurance and force recognition of moral failure rather than annihilate humanity outright. The Nephilim. The Nephilim belong to the earliest layers of Old Testament tradition, tied to ancestral narratives that blur the boundary between the human and the divine. Their brief mention sparked centuries of interpretation, expanding their legend far beyond the original text. Legends describe the Nephilim as towering giants, possessing immense strength and an intimidating presence that set them apart from ordinary humanity. The origins of their myth likely stem from ancient attempts to explain legendary heroes, great warriors, or the ruins of massive structures. Over time, these figures were reimagined as the offspring of divine beings and humans. The Nephilim function as symbols of transgression. Their existence represents the breakdown of natural order and moral boundaries. Rather than acting as guardians or servants, they embody excess, violence, and corruption, often associated with a world that had grown dangerously distorted, requiring divine intervention to restore balance. Taken together, these beings reveal a pattern. Biblical monsters are not warnings of beasts hiding in the dark, but manifestations of humanity's deepest fears and failures. They symbolize chaos, rebellion, and moral collapse. Forces that rise whenever power replaces truth and fear replaces faith. In this way, the monsters were never outside us, they were always within.